Welcome to the Maria Heller Show, on the net since 2000 and still going strong. If you feel like you're not getting the real news, if you feel like you're not connected spiritually, you have found your home. Maria covers a wide range of topics as only a snarky New Yorker can. Straight up, no chaser. No censorship, no corporate sponsors, thus true freedom of speech. Your subscription gives you unlimited access as a member of the smartest audience on earth. Relax and enjoy the education. Now here's Maria.
Good morning, world. Maria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to Awaken with Meria and Monnica, two wild and crazy girls.
The M&Ms with nuts.
The M&Ms with my friend, co-host, Monnica Sepulveda. You can check her work out at Monnica with 2Ns.com. There's a live link here. She's very skilled in metaphysics, and we both are, but we've been doing it for 40 years apiece. So when you're stuck in life, we're the go-to girls, okay? And these particular shows, for some of you listeners, you say it's a little simple stuff you know, but remember, there's a lot of people out there that don't know, and it's always good to have a little refresher course, especially in crazy days like this.
Yes, absolutely. And the key is not to get caught up in it emotionally. You can't help it sometimes because that's the agenda. But, you know, we all have a lot of power, and we can choose what we take in and how we react to things. I think the reaction is where the power is. Don't react. Start utilizing what you know, which is our spiritual information, because spirituality is not what we know, really. It's how we live our lives. And that's what I keep telling people. It's how you live your life. It's not about what you do, because I've had so many clients come see me and they say, well, you know, I don't feel like I'm powerful. I'm just one person and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, look, I said, if you shifted from the inside out, you'd be contributing to this planet like you wouldn't believe, because you're that powerful. And if each person did their part and just take care of their own space, the shifting would take place by itself.
Right.
We don't have to be concerned, but come from a place of love, because love is the answer. So people start to feel empowered, but I said, it's not what you know, it's how we live our lives.
Exactly.
And that's so key, because I've told people before, you're not spiritual, and they're like offended. I'm like, if you were spiritual, you'd be living this, and
Right.
You're not. You worry all day long, you're fearful all day long, you're doubting yourself, you have no trust, you have all this baggage you're carrying around. God, you must have a backache, you know?
Right.
And so, you know, Maria and I, we're tell it like it is girls. We don't have a filter. And we're both fire signs, too, which I love. I love you, Maria.
I love you, too.
I learned a lot from you because you're so bold and frank. More so than me, I think. I'm pretty bold and frank myself, but, you know, I don't have my radio show at all. I don't need one. I think that you are better than anybody else I've ever heard.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you know, I always praise you because every time I listen to your broadcast, which is like all the time, I listen to it in the morning with my coffee, you know, and I just sit there and I'm like, oh, how does she do this and stay centered, you know? And, well, you do a lot of things to get rid of your stress, but I have, you know, a really good technique I wanted to teach the listeners today. And this is something that you're going to do soon. Don't put it off. Don't just take notes. This is a project for you, and it's Project You. Because who's more important than us?
Absolutely.
Nobody.
Well, listen.
We have to be at the top of our priority list.
Absolutely. You know, I have so many clients, and I think it's because of their religious upbringing, where they think that it's wrong to take care of themselves. She says, is this selfish of me, or will this be selfish, or whatever? And I said, change the word selfish to self-love.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is necessary, especially these days, you know, because I meditate and pray in the morning because I like to send out, you know, I like to get centered first and feel that white light of love just pouring into me from the source. And the source is love. And you can call it God or higher power. I don't call it universe because that's limiting to the source, because that's just one universe. There's billions of universes that were created by the source of love. So why just say, I trust the universe? That's limiting to me. Just like saying God is a man. No. That's religious crap. it's bigger than you can imagine. It is infinite and it's powerful and it's within us. And when we live that way, everything changes. So I don't know if it's okay for me to go ahead and start with this particular exercise that I learned back in 1989. That was a long time ago, but I did it. And because I'm the kind of person that when I learn something, I immediately do it. I don't know if that's my OCD or the Aries nature that I have, but I have to do it because I have to make sure that it works in order for me to then teach my clients. And, we are I'm sorry.
I understand. Listen, in all the years of being on this earth, let alone on my show, I have never once told my listeners to do something that I myself don't do.
Absolutely. You have to go through it first. Otherwise, I remember the days when I used to weigh like 300 pounds and I used to go work out, and the teachers were always like very skinny, 120 pounds, and they go, feel the burn, feel the burn. I was like, fuck you.
Right.
You put on 100 extra pounds and you do what you're doing right now and see if you can do that. I thought there was absolutely no empathy, no compassion, and there's no way that she could, teach me and know what I'm going through. Come on, you got to work hard. I'm like, And then Richard Simmons came along and started his workout. And my kind of people, right? And that's when I lost weight. So you have to be able to relate to something before you teach it. And Maria and I are both solution-oriented. We always look what's going on, and then we go right to the solution. And that's the beauty of our work, is that that sets us aside from a lot of other people that do our work.
Absolutely.
I think this is why we're more high profile.
Absolutely. Listen, as I start my 20th year on the net this month, a lot of my listeners are sending me in very lovely letters. And
I heard. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Who would have ever thought this? But I was like, am I still doing this? But what's interesting is they know that there's only one truth, and that I've always been consistent.
Absolutely.
And if the person people are listening to, following, reading, whatever, are not consistent and not telling you all the truth, then they're also telling you lies.
Yeah. I think the key to each individual, learn as much as you can, but then take action, because I have tons of tools. But I always believe, too, a person should have a reading so they know exactly what is best for, because each reading is customized per person. They're not generic. They're really honed in for you specifically so you can address the issues that are standing in your way and not letting you get what you want. And getting what you want basically boils down to peace of mind, because you can have all the money in the world and not have peace of mind.
Exactly.
You have to have peace of mind. That keeps us in the now, and that keeps you connected to your intuition, which gives you guidance and gives you the next step. Otherwise, you throw yourself back into that left brain that holds all the emotion, all the baggage, all the old thoughts, old thinking, old belief systems. We need to detach more from that, but we need the left brain in order to know that 1 and 1 equals 2.
Exactly. Well, that old expression, only left-handed people are in their right mind.
And I'm left-handed.
So am I.
I'm not surprised.
So am I. Did they try to switch you when you were younger?
Actually, my teachers, no. They tried to give me scissors for the right hand, but I could only cut with my left hand. So I said, I need lefty scissors. And they said, okay. They were cool about it. And I was born in 1951, so we're looking at the late 50s. When I was in, grade school. So they were actually aware. Well, I grew up in Santa Clara, which is Silicon Valley. And for some reason, that area has always been very open and not you know what I mean? It's not like I went to catechism or Catholic school, although I did go to catechism and Catholic school, which turned me off in terms of having to go to church and confirmation and baptism and all that stuff. I was turned off immediately, and I saw what the nuns were doing. They took this one kid and they hung him upside down and put him in a locker.
Oh, God.
And I thought, oh, yeah, totally abused. St. Justin's Church in Santa Clara. I don't mind, talking about who they were. But they were horrible. They were horrible people. And even when it came time for me to have to memorize my prayers, my dad was not in a good place mentally and emotionally, and he had issues, and he's a lot of the reasons why I had to look for solutions to get my self-esteem back, because he used to sit there, get this is how I was raised, and people always say, oh, you have such a great life, all these people, yada yada. I said, you don't want to trade places with me. I would sit there or stand there in front of him. He'd sit on the chair, he'd be holding a belt, and he'd hold the book, and I had to recite the prayer. And if I made any mistake, I'd get hit with the belt. I mean, that's a terrible way to grow up with
Right.
religion. No
Right.
thanks.
The same religions that teach you God is love.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was Catholic. And finally, I had classes at the age of 19, and I had a Mother Superior and 3 nuns, and that said, you know so much. My course was called SOS, not Seminars on Success, Saving Our Souls. No. Actually, they took my classes, and they said, you know so much, you need to get out of the Catholic religion. You've surpassed it. I was 19.
They don't want anybody that questions whatever religion it is, especially a girl. They don't want them sticking around.
These women were very aware of these nuns, and they just said, go on and study Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, study everything because you're on your way. And I said, thank you, and I left the Catholic Church, and so did my mom.
Good for you.
Anyway, so I wanted each person in today's show to realize that you can change your life by doing this exercise. It works, it works, it works. I manifested everything within 1 year's time. And if you have pen and paper, you can take notes or just re-listen to this broadcast once again, or download it, then save it, because the information here is very, very powerful. Even though it seems like it's simple, it's extremely powerful. And I call it rating my life from 1 to 10. And Maria, to remind me, we talked a little bit about it in the last show. That brain cell's gone from me right now, so I don't recall that. But anyway, so what you do is, you can either write this longhand or go on your computer. You give your life a rating from 1 to 10, the way it is now. When I first did this, I gave my life a rating as a 4. At the time, I was doing a lot of national talk shows. I was on the old Maury Povich show, on the old Jerry Springer, on Lisa Gibbons, and just a ton of shows back in New York and Chicago and LA. And so I was doing very well financially, but I wasn't happy. I was still heavy, had almost 300 pounds, like I said. That's because I had a lot of stuff I needed to get rid of that really damaged my self-esteem. So to me, every time I succeeded, it wasn't bringing me peace of mind, and I knew that that's what I needed was peace of mind. So what do? I immediately think I've got to find a solution. And isn't it interesting, Maria, that when we ask and we're ready for something, the teacher appears?
Absolutely.
When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so I found out about this particular process, and it was like, bingo, I have to do this. So I gave my life a rating of 4, which is very low. Considering all the success I was having, I was not happy. And so I just wrote down my life is a 10, and I wrote it in detail. I first explained why my life is a 4 and why I was so unhappy, and I wrote in detail. And believe me, this should take you about a good half hour to an hour to do, because you need to be real, And so I kept getting the message for the last 2 weeks, you have to do this again, this rating from 1 to 10. You haven't done it since 1989. But I did manifest everything in my 10. When I wrote down my life as a 10, I manifested all of it. So I wrote down my life as a 4, and this is why. I wrote all the details, and I was like, wow, I'm not happy at all. And I'm doing so well, but I'm not happy at all. So I wrote all the details about it, and then I put aside that script, and I call it a script, and I wrote down on a new piece of paper, my life is a 10, and it looks like this. And I wrote down everything that I had accomplished, everything that I wanted to have. It was in my life already. It was in the first person present tense. It wasn't like, I want this to happen. It was like, this has happened now. I live by the ocean. I even wrote, I have a Capricorn man who's 6'2" with blue eyes and brown hair, and I manifested him. But I needed to be more detailed because he turned out to be an alcoholic. So if you want a really good relationship, make sure you write down the details. No alcoholics, no mental illness, no drug addicts, nothing. Write every detail down, and that's a lesson I learned. And I wrote down, things like I wake up in the morning, I open the sliding glass door, and the fresh ocean air comes in. My mate comes in, and he's absolutely loving and affectionate, and he was all those things, but he drank. And he became a different person when he drank at night. So then I wrote down that, I have clients all over the world now. I have that friend that I saw when I was 11 years old. He lives in England, and I'm going to meet him. And in the 10 life, I said, yes, I met that man. He was in England. It turned out to be David Icke. So I didn't know who it was. I just told my mother when I was 11 I was going to go to London a lot, and I was going to go to the UK and to Europe, and I was going to have a really good friend, and he's a man, and he's British, and I told her, I said, he's famous, Mom, he's famous. And she reminded me of that. I was 11 when I told her that. And so it turned out to be him. And because of him, of course, my career has really flourished. And, you always need someone to help you go to the next level. We need each other. We're interdependent. Right. So in my life as a 10, everything that I wrote down, I focused on. Because you have to ask yourself 3 questions when you have these 2 scripts. Number 1 question is, am I willing to do whatever it takes to go from a 4 to a 10? And I said, yes. Second question is, what is it that I need to do to go from a 4 to a 10? And I looked at the first script and I realized that I had been worrying a lot. I'd been fearful. I was reactive. I had no personal power. I was reacting to everything outside of me. Mm-hmm. And number 3 was, I was insecure. I didn't believe in myself. I used to talk down to myself. I used to criticize myself. So I found some good solutions for that. If anyone has a problem with the self-esteem and talking to yourself in ways that are untruths, negatively, and we define ourselves after the words I am. I am that I am is what, in the book of Genesis, what God called itself is the I am that I am, which means love. So I started saying, I am that I am, I am that I am, and I repeated it over and over like a chant, and I got really high, and I started feeling this love, and I went, wow, when you align with love, you become love. You are love, duh, Mm-hmm. So then I started looking at, the third question. Okay, so what's it going to take? Second question, what's it going to take? That means I have to change from the inside. I can't worry anymore because worry is the opposite of faith. Mm-hmm. I can't doubt anymore because doubting is doubting the self and in the process. So I believe in myself now, and I believe in my connection with my source of love. And the third question was, what if I don't change anything at all? And then I held up the first script, and the answer was, your life is going to be a 4 forever. And I went, no fucking way. No. So I ripped up the 4, threw it away, which is important after you write your life as a 10 and describe it in detail. Because my life as a 10, I wasn't worried ever. I had lots of faith. I had lots of confidence in myself. I also got rid of fear because fear is an absence of love, so that didn't make sense. So in my life as a 10, I changed all of those things and realized that we materialize the things on the outside based on what's going on the inside. So I connected a dot back then. I was in my 30s, actually 38. And so all of a sudden, Maria, everything in 1 year that I wrote down, it all came to pass. Even the guy, 6'2", blue hair, brown eyes, Capricorn, December 27th, I remember, but he was an alcoholic, so I said, write as much detail as possible. I moved to the ocean. I lived there for 27 years until I moved last year, and I'm going to go back. And also my life, I saw myself traveling the world, and I was giving thanks, and I was looking at my life as a 10, not as my future, but as my now. Mm. So when you rip up the first script, after you've rated yourself, the first number, you've got to throw it away because you can't go back there and think like that anymore. You can't. You have to hold up the script and look at it daily and just say, yeah, like I noticed in my last one, I've been having a lot of problems with my knees, and I just had x-rays and stuff, found out I have an advanced arthritis. I thought one of the options for this is to get gel injections. So I said, I'm going to get rid of this because it's on my list right now. Nope. I don't like this. I don't like not having to walk. I couldn't walk that far. And did you notice I said couldn't? Right. I didn't say can't. Right. I couldn't walk that far, and I have this disabled slip thing so I can, park close. And in my 10, my knees are fixed. I'm walking perfectly, but I started taking action immediately only because I started looking at my 10. My knees are fixed. I feel great. I can walk long distances. My neck doesn't hurt anymore. Mm-hmm. And I looked at all these things that changed in my life. I'm not going to go into it because it's personal, but what you do is you got to look at that list every day and make sure that you're in alignment with it. If you catch yourself going back to old stuff, just say, no, I don't live there anymore. That's not my reality. Mm-hmm. This is who I am, and this is my life as a 10, and my life as a 10 is happening right now. It's happening right now. So when you do this exercise, I will guarantee you, write Maria back. As you start to progress, you're going to notice your life changing because your thoughts changed, your beliefs changed, and the words that we're speaking to ourselves have changed. And that's how we create a manifested life of peace and harmony and joy. and whatever else it is that you need. If you wrote down in your first script that you didn't have a lot of money, well, hey, you better start telling yourself that you're prosperous, because the only thing that causes us not to be prosperous is fear. So, no, get rid of that. Plug into love, because fear is an absence of love. And what happens is everything you need is provided for us. Don't look at numbers. Don't look at people. I don't even look at clients. I look at clients that I can help. And the byproduct is I get paid for it. So it's not my main goal to make money. It's my main goal is to help people like you.
Exactly. But we still have bills to pay, just like everybody else. So.
Oh yeah. And I work with people too. I realize my rates are high. I've been doing this work for 48 years, since 1972. What is that? 47 years, and I guess, and professionally. But I started doing it when I was 11 and 12. But I didn't have a license to practice at the time, And now I'm an ordained minister with a metaphysical spiritualist church, and that happened in May 15th, 1972. So it's been 47 years. And so what I decided to do is I said, I learned from this one girl that was on the Oprah show. I'm not a fan of Oprah, but this girl was teaching feng shui. So we traded. I taught her, I gave her a reading and stuff, and she taught me how to do feng shui. And I realized that, when she said to me, she says, when I charge people, she says, if they can't afford it, they send me what they can, because you must complete the circle of giving and receiving. So anybody out there that thinks that it's owed to them, well, I don't have any money and I can't afford this, so can you do it for free? Cancel. I just said something that was negative myself, but when you say the words cancel, your brain deletes it. It's like hitting delete. So my mother taught me that when I was 16. And so it's a good one, believe me. And my mom only had an 8th grade education, but she's the wisest woman on the planet, because she started picking up books. My mom's from Mexico. She immigrated from Mexico, and she became a natural citizen by the time she was 25 years old, and she moved here at age 18. So anyway, I just got a copy of her immigration when she became a U.S. citizen. I just got the paper. I thought the paper was really kind of cool. So she was wise. She started picking up books from Ralph Waldo Emerson called, oh my gosh, why am I hitting a blank on that? It's about being independent. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most famous ones he ever wrote. And I met his great-grandniece, by the way. But anyway, so she raised us on that, and she always posted quotations all over the house. She would read books on quotations, Science of the Mind. She was really having the Science of Mind and Unity. And so she'd get quotations. Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It. All these books came into my life as a teenager.
You were lucky.
And, I'm sorry?
You were very lucky. The average person, even today, has no idea of any of this. Any of these books, any of these churches, any of, metaphysics, things that can help them help themselves.
Oh my gosh. Go to a Unity church. It is all positive. It's all metaphysical. It's all about God is love and God is within us. We create whatever it is that we think. It really connects all the dots. And back in the early 80s sometime, there was a DVD that was released called The Secret. It was from Australia.
Oh,
a lot of people bought it, and I thought, well, this is a good visual, because I learned this stuff 20 years ago, but it's good for people that are just now awakening, So it was a good video.
I actually did an interview with one of the producers.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, man. Well, when it came out, so look how long ago that was.
Yeah, 80s.
Right. Well, I don't know about the 80s. I'm thinking about the movie The Secret. The movie The Secret. But when I looked through that whole movie, I mean, even though it did have some ups to it, I said this thing just speaks to American greed. When you and I can talk about visualizations as much as we want, we can talk about rating your life, we can talk about so many techniques. The one thing that's missing, I think, from all of them is, why aren't they teaching us how to visualize world peace? Why aren't they teaching us how to visualize everybody being fed on the planet?
I think because we have to start with ourselves, and then we extend it out, which is what I do every morning.
Right.
I align myself first. I stay with my vision of my own personal, the things that I need for me to have peace of mind. Like you said, we have to pay bills as well. So I don't just focus on money. I focus on my good health, because at this point in time, I can only walk short distances. And that's not okay with me. So therefore, in my life as a 10, my knees are healed, and I just started taking action for that to happen. So I think once we're okay, then we can send out that love to other people. And I do visualize people, especially these kids in the cages. I know that there is a purpose or a plan, just like Nazi Germany, but it sucks. There's no reason why we can't send love to them and change what's going on. I don't wish anybody bad things, even though I might have bad thoughts about them, like the cheetah face in the White House, the occupant. What I do is I just say, your time will come and karma will finish it. And that's how I leave it. But I got this message a while back that made a lot of sense to me. There is a master plan of balance, and you shall see the shift coming soon. Start with yourself. And so that's what, again, caused me to think about this particular process that I did back in 1989, and everything came to pass. Right. But the key is it brought me peace of mind, and that's what was necessary for me. Because When you're beaten a lot as a child, you have no self-esteem. You don't think that you made a mistake. You think you are the mistake. That's the problem. And you and I have spoken about John Bradshaw before.
Right. Well, many years ago, when I lived in New York, I chaired a tough love group. Tough love is still around, and it's often been misunderstood and slammed, but it's one of the most effective parenting programs out there. And the one thing that they always promote is you might be able to change someone else's behavior by changing your reaction to their behavior.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You're right.
Because if somebody's going to keep pushing the same button, knowing exactly the reaction you're going to give them, then they're going to keep doing that. But if you give them an opposite reaction or no reaction, there's a shot they might actually change their behavior. But either way, you change your reaction to it so you have less aggravation and less stress. I actually got to interview the founder of Tough Love many years ago. She was an amazing woman. And when I thanked her for all the help it did, and I told her, without you, it saved my daughter's life. Mm-hmm. And she was so humble, she said to me, you don't need to thank me because you did the work.
Yeah, that's true. We do have to do the work. That's why it's an action thing, not a belief thing. It's an action thing. And, I realized early in life when I was, getting those beatings from my dad for any infraction, he beat my sister one time and she never reacted. She just stared at him, didn't move, didn't cry. He never touched her again.
All right.
Not me. I was ultra-sensitive middle child, ultra-sensitive, and I was sobbing. My brother too, so he used to pick on the both of us, but he left her alone.
Well, there's always one. But listen, when my mother used to smack me around, I would just laugh. And my laughing at her stopped her. Okay. So.
Oh, Maria.
So I guess I was always that kid. But yeah. I would just laugh, even when my daughter was acting out as a teenager, preteen, and she'd be all flailing and screaming and going wild all around the house. I would just put my headset on and hum while she was going nuts because there was no reaction to her. She wasn't getting what she wanted, so eventually she had to start laughing because she saw how ridiculous it was. So you know that expression, never let him see you sweat. But that's always been the way I've been. You could have cut my heart out, but I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of letting you know that you gave me pain.
Yeah, I wasn't that strong. I was ultra sensitive, Pisces rising, in the.
Right, but I know a lot of people out there listening, they're going through the same shit every day with their partner, with their lover, whatever. And it's a repeat. It's like a Groundhog Day of the same pain every day when all they have to do is stop reacting, react in a different way.
And get rid of them.
Well, that would be first thing. It's like, I want you out. When? Yesterday.
Yeah, I don't put up with any crap from anybody, and I'm the first to admit that I can be very hard on men because I was so naive for such a long time. I used to let them walk all over me, and then after the alcoholic was in my life, I just thought, I better call his ex-wife to find out what happened there. And she told me, she says, I've been waiting for your call. I said, you have? She goes, yeah. I said, he's an alcoholic? She says, oh, yeah, that's why we're divorced. And so she said, he punched me when I was pregnant. I went, holy crap. And so I confronted him and I said, get out of here. And ever since then, I haven't been too easy on men, which I have to work on myself because I can't judge all men by the actions of one.
Well,
that's not fair either.
I understand. But listen, I was very lucky. Yes. I got like the son of Satan the first time out.
Oh my gosh.
So there I was. I met him when I was 17. We got married when I was like 20. He was the worst possible husband. He was great up until we were married. Every
Yeah.
single thing a man could possibly do wrong, he did at least twice a day.
Oh,
So he
geez.
was physically abusive, emotionally abusive, verbally abusive. That lasted just until my daughter was born. And then I
Mhm.
fell for her physical safety. I had to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But in honesty, 20 years, and it took 20 years, so anybody listening, be patient. 20 years later, I realized he was the best teacher I could ever have asked for, and what a
Yeah.
sacrifice his soul made to teach
Bingo.
me those
Bingo.
lessons.
That's it. Because people say, I need to get rid of. He's doing this. He's doing that. I said, well, you're part of the dance. I said, so what are you learning from this? I said, because you don't lose anything unless you lose a lesson. So the person that you're attracting is exactly who we need in
Right.
order to be able to grow from it. That's the reason why it's there. That person's there because they're basically like that. They're a guru trying to teach us what we need to change on the inside. One thing I learned is that we don't attract what we want. We attract who we are. So if there's a person in your life who's being abusive, where are you abusing yourself? If there's a person who's critical, how are you criticizing yourself? One of the things I learned, this is another little nugget here that I'm going to share with you that really helped me a lot, because people say, well, just look in the mirror and tell yourself how wonderful you are. And I thought, but I didn't feel that way. But then when someone said, get a picture of yourself at age 5 or under. Mm-hmm. And I found one of myself at 6 months and one at 5. And the one at 5 was already broken. The one at age 6 months had this wonderment in her eyes. And they said, talk to her. Be alone, talk to her. And first of all, ask her, did you reincarnate for me to treat you like this? And she said, no. Why do you do that? We had enough already as, growing up as children. Why are you doing it now? And I felt so bad. I started crying, and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm never going to do that to you again. Once I made a vow, and I told her I'd make her life happy every day, that I would make sure that she is at peace and joyful and that she's having a fun time here. As soon as I made that commitment, I framed that picture, put it in my office, put one in my bedroom, and I greet her every morning and say, hi, beautiful. Look at those eyes. I know that you're happy now because, I'm happy too. So, using that technique of utilizing a picture when you were a child, especially if you have one under age 5, you'll be surprised at how quickly life changes when we start talking to ourselves in ways that are truth rather than bullshit, because we usually identify ourselves with all the shortcomings that we think we have.
Right. Well, I totally relate to that, but that's all about rescuing and parenting your own inner child.
Yeah.
And it's never too
and there's a
late.
book called Self-Parenting by John Pollard.
All right.
It's exceptional. And you can read it in an hour, but it really shows you how to turn around what we're saying to ourselves. I loaned that book to somebody, and I never got it back. So I don't ever loan out books anymore. I loaned out my Daniel Brinkley book, Saved by the Light, because I met him in person. Mm-hmm. He was the one that died. He was electrocuted and died and came back.
I know. I think I have 2 interviews with him in the archives.
Wonderful. He's wonderful. And so I remember when this one lady was reading my book, and he had autographed it for me because I drove 100 miles so I could meet him and ask him some questions. And so anyway, she said, I'll bring it back in 2 weeks. Well, 5 years later, I still didn't have it back. She came in for a reading. I said, so where's my book? And she goes, I can't find it. And so I went, oh, great. I said, that book meant so much to me. I said, but come in and get your reading. And I cleared out. And then all of a sudden, my friend Glenn from San Francisco, he says, Daniel Brinkley's coming to San Francisco. Do you want to go? I said, I can't. I'm booked. So he said, okay. I said, can you do me a favor and get one of his books and have him to autograph it to me? Because I told him the story. I said, please tell him the story. So then Daniel Brinkley was supposed to go on the air like at 2 o'clock. And 10 minutes to 2, my phone rings, and I see that it says Glenn on it. And I thought, okay, I'll talk to Glenn because he's probably telling me that he got the book signed. And instead, it was Daniel Brinkley. And he calls me, and he says, hi, darling, with a southern accent. And he says, I heard about your story. He goes, that woman, that daggone woman, she didn't lose your book. She kept it. She lied to you.
Right.
So I'm going to send the book I'm going to autograph it to you, and I'm going to send you my new DVD. And I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you took the time to call me, So he did send me a new book, autographed it even more with more detail, and actually gave me his DVD about life after life,
That's
So
great.
it was kind of interesting how things work out, because that book meant the world to me. He's so good. If anybody has never read that book, you should, because it really describes what it's like after we leave this place.
Well,
And then there was a film called Saved by the Light, and the lead character that played Daniel Brinkley was Eric Roberts, who's Julia Roberts' brother. That's a good one to find, too. You can find them on Amazon. It was just released on DVD, so it used to be VHS tape,
All right. Well, Monty, we need to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I got a book story for you when we come back. Hold on.
Okay.
Hi, this is Monnica Sepulveda of Wake Up with Meria and Monnica. You can hear us every second Tuesday of the month. We offer you solutions and tools to help raise your own vibratorial frequency. And as we stay in this light of love, we shift ourselves and the planet shifts by itself. No reason to react to the negativity that's going on this planet when we're all so powerful. So why not use it every morning when you wake up? Actually, I'm doing this promotion for selfish reasons. I just got to tell you that Maria is probably the best. No, I know. She's the best intuitive reader I have ever met in my life, and she's underpaid. Check out her prices and check out mine. There's differences. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm a medium. I contact people who've passed on. But this woman is incredibly accurate with her predictions. I've never met anybody so gifted. She's so wonderful as a friend, and I'm humbled to be on her show. Thank you so much, Maria. Sorry I had to plug you here, but I just have to brag about you. You're that good. Take care, everyone, and make it a great day. Bye.
Okay, welcome back to Awaken with Meria and Monnica. Monnica, your story about that book, which the woman should have bought you another one, even if she did decide to keep yours, but some people have no class. I remember back in New York when my house was up on the market because we wanted to move to Arizona, and I had a medicine wheel in my foyer upstairs that was made out of crystals. And one day I came home after they showed the house, and some of the crystals were missing. And, I called the realtor, and I said to her, I told her what had happened, and I said, listen, whoever took those crystals is going to have nothing but bad luck. So you need to tell them that you don't take something sacred like that without asking. It's different if you find a crystal. A lot of times people say, I lost my crystal, or I lost this. Is this going to be bad for me or whatever? Sometimes it's just as simple as you don't need the energy of that crystal anymore. And whoever found it, say you dropped it on the street, the subway, whatever, whoever found it needs it more than you. So you have to
I totally agree with that. That is absolutely right on.
Right. So you have to be okay sometimes when things disappear. But when it's something sacred, people have to understand. I don't know how many tons of rocks get returned to Sedona in the mail every year. The same thing happens in Hawaii. Okay, you cannot go out into nature and just assume you can take anything you want just because it's from a sacred site. If spirit doesn't give it to you and you don't ask and leave something in its place, you're going to have nothing but bad luck. And that's a story I've heard for decades, about the post office getting all these rocks and things back because people end up getting bad luck. Now, I have to tell you, it's a scary story. So everybody, hold on, this is my life. A scary story. I had this client in Mexico for a very long time. He was a very nice man. His mother, I think, lived in Phoenix in a trailer by herself. He used to tell his mother about the things he was learning from me. So his mother had this book. It was called Arachnia Rising. And it was a very old book, impossible to get now. And on the inside of the book, she wrote, Dear Meria, I had never met this woman. You're the only person I know that can handle this book. And she mailed it to me, even though I did not know her. When I got the book, he told me like 2 days later, 2 days, Monnica, he went to visit his mother in the trailer, and she had been murdered.
What?
Okay, brutally murdered. Okay,
Oh my gosh.
one of those unsolved cases in Arizona. And the book was intense. The book was about the 13th planet and the spider people that live on it. I mean, it was heavy duty, okay? But how weird that when he calls to tell me his mother was murdered was the day I received that book.
Get out.
No.
I don't believe in coincidences at all.
Right.
I believe this is in synchronicity.
Right. So what ended up happening, I was working with a business partner at that time in the fashion business. And I was telling her about the book and whatnot. And she brought one of her girlfriends over who supposedly was on a spiritual quest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of a sudden, my book is missing. So I asked my girlfriend that I was in business with, I said, did your friend, because I didn't really care for this girl, you need to find out if she took that book. Because if she took that book, nothing good's going to come to her because I knew about the murder and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Well, of course, the woman denied taking the book. And I think it was 2 months later when her entire life had crashed and burned, literally.
Oh my God, talk about karma.
And she got the book back to me. She did not want it in her house.
Duh.
Okay, so, here's another lesson. A, don't steal from anybody like us.
Ever.
No.
Ever.
But number 2 is, if you're not ready for the level of spirituality you may think you're ready for, you need to stay away. I mean, I've had people tell me that they honestly believe after a year of studying that they can take on the dark side. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me?
Don't.
Okay.
Don't even go there. I know what I went through this spring, and you told me, remember? Something's trying to slip in you, Monica, and I can feel it. It's trying to slip in, and sure enough, it did. I've been at this for 47 years, and something dark slipped into me. It was the worst experience in the world until I said, get the fuck out of me.
Well, that's
And I saw these
right.
3 little things run out.
Right.
Because as soon as you say, get out of here, get the fuck out of here, they leave.
Absolutely.
They don't have power over us unless we are clueless and unaware and sleeping.
Absolutely. Listen, I've had, those types of weird aberrations, throughout my life too. And I just look at them and say, you aren't invited, you need to leave. It's that simple.
My mom also has the same ability that I do. We studied together, and she told me yesterday on the phone that this spirit has been appearing to her, physically appearing in front of her, and she said, it's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I said, you got to talk to her, Mom, because she's come to her 3 times already. And so it's like she said she's very angelic. And I said, please talk to her, Mom. I said, you know what to do. So she goes, okay, next time she appears, she just looks at me with a smile, and I feel so peaceful. And I'm like, okay, but you got to find out why she's there.
Exactly. Sunbear used to tell a very funny story when he used to talk to people about, talking to the spirit world and spirits and whatnot. He said that one of his new students thought that she could conjure up a spirit one night. Okay. And she did. And it scared the hell out of her. So she ran out of her house while the spirit was there. And she called Sunbear in the middle of the night. And she's all, Sunbear, I had a spirit show up, blah, 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 blah. And Sunbear said to her, did you ask him who he is, what he wants? She said, no, I was too terrified. And he said to her, you don't call on something unless you're ready to deal with it.
Yes, exactly.
And,
exactly.
There are a lot of people who want to rush their spiritual journey. I've had a few students like that. And I tell them, listen, the end of the journey is death. What's the rush? Yeah. I had one say,
Good one. I'm going to steal that from you.
Go right ahead. And then I had another one, and I said to him, he wanted to know everything that I know. And I said, well, he was like 25 years younger than me. I said, well, it took me 60 years. You willing to donate 60 years of your life to know everything I know? People don't understand. There's no rush. And you don't call on things unless you're ready to deal with them.
Yeah. Well, I'm teaching lessons right now. I have about 40 lessons at a really cheap price. And it's because, I'm already planning my retirement when I'm like 75 years old. I'm 68 now. So I want to teach as many people as possible to do some of the things that I've learned and I've acquired. Like, again, the same thing in the last 50 years, I've acquired a lot of information. And I want to, before I forget, I want to give another nugget to your listeners because this one is also extremely effective. Whether you use it or your child uses it, it's very effective. Is it okay if I do this right now?
Of course.
Okay, great. Thanks. I don't want to interrupt you in any way or lose your train of thought, but it just popped in my head, and you know how it works. Telepathy works quickly. So what you do is if there's something that's really bothering you, or if you have a hard time, let's say even with finances or the way you speak to yourself or whatever it is, what you do is you take this little piece of paper about maybe 4 inches long by 2 inches tall, and you write on it, I no longer have financial issues that has no power over me. Then, that's talking about money, okay? But you can write anything. I no longer speak to myself in negative ways, and I don't have a weight issue. It doesn't have power over me. So you write something like that. Then you crumble up that piece of paper and get like a paper cup, not a paper cup, a plastic cup, like a Solo cup or a clear one, and you fill it halfway with water. You put that piece of paper inside there, put it in the freezer, and freeze it. Make sure you write the date on the outside that you're doing this. Then once it's frozen, you'll notice the paper floats, so it's going to be on top. Then you top it off with more water and put it back in the freezer. And then when it's frozen, the message is now frozen in the middle. And it can't have power over you. And you know we open our freezers at least once or twice a day. So when you look at it, all you do is laugh and say, you have no power over me because I froze
That's
you on,
great.
July the 15th, 2019 or whatever. And what it's
I
doing,
love
because I studied neurolinguistics, and I know that when you master your neurology, you can master your life. So what this is doing is it's rewriting the script in your head neurologically, and it erases the old script, kind of like when we used to play those records, those 33 RPM records. If you ever took the needle off wrong, it would scratch it, and it would never play the same again. So what you're doing is basically scratching that old thought and installing this new one that it has no power over you, and watch what happens in 30 days. I left one in there for a year one time, and I couldn't even remember why I put it in there. And then all of a sudden, I was like, I wonder what I wrote, So it was kind of like hard to read because it had, the water had kind of, blurred it out. So you can actually put tape on it if you want to. And when I read, I said, I can't believe that I was concerned about that. It just blew my mind because it completely left.
Right.
It was just at the back of the freezer. That particular technique is good with children who have nightmares and the boogeyman and stuff.
Right.
But with children, use like colored water. Put some like drops of their favorite color. So if they like pink for a girl, then put pink on there so that they can look at it and make them smile. Because now you're neurologically, giving them their power back with their favorite color. It gets anchored together.
Right.
And you can put the negative one with a dark color and then the second layer of water with their favorite color so that they know that, that pink, in the pink, everything's rosy, or lavender, whatever. But it works really good with kids because they look at it and they say, oh, the boogeyman has no power over me. I froze him in time. And it makes them feel empowered. So
Oh, yeah, that's a great releasing technique. I come
You bet.
across a lot of people that have a lot of old crap stuck to them.
It's a nice nugget.
Yeah,
and it works.
yeah. Sometimes I'll look at somebody's timeline during a read, and I'll see that even though their life looks like it's going pretty well, I can see attachments. Whether they're still emotionally distraught over a relationship, their parents, whatever. And I give them out, specific, there's so many really good releasing techniques.
Oh, yeah.
But I like that one, you can just, whoever it is that slighted you or whatever, just put them in the freezer.
Put them in the freezer and they're frozen in time.
Literally give them the deep freeze.
Yes, absolutely. I actually learned this from Tony Robbins, who I studied with for about 5.5 years. And what I used to do, because the seminars were expensive, I was certified as a neurolinguistic therapist because I studied with him for 2 weeks in Palm Beach. No, what's the one in the West Coast?
I don't know. I try not to pay attention to him.
Palm Beach, whatever. But I met him when he was 25, so that was back in the 80s.
Well, he was
so
a different person then.
I wanted to be a neurolinguistic therapist, so I decided to take that walk on the coals, which blew my mind because I walked over 50 feet of coals and I got a teeny blister, but those things are 1,800 degrees. So I know it showed me the power of the mind. And what I did is I used to staff his events so that I could take the classes for free. I mean, that's smart, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had a client about a year ago, and she told me that she's a member of his devotees, and it costs $60,000 a year.
Oh, that's insane. Well, see, what happened for him is his goal was to become, well, he's worth like $250 million now. But I remember the old Tony. He's probably 50-something years old now, but I met him at age 25 when he first got started. He had very pure heart, and he was very much into neurolinguistics, and I was interested. So I did study in the 80s with him, and I was certified. So a lot of the techniques that he used, I use them as well with my clients because they work. And that one, freezing it, is from his classes.
Good. Well, listen, some things are tried and true. We could go back to where we started the show. I guess this is a show about books. But when you were talking about, that we're all interconnected and how to take your power back, that was actually the first introduction I had ever had to Sun Bear. I was in a used bookstore. I was walking through the aisle, and a book literally jumped off the shelf, fell on the floor.
Oh,
and
I believe it.
Yeah, when I bent over to pick it up, it was The Path of Power by Sun Bear.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no way I was walking out of the store without it, because he tells you in specifics how to take your power back, but it also makes you aware of how we give our power away all day long, every day.
All day long.
From the to how they put the food in the supermarkets to entice you. The difference between the top shelf and the bottom shelf. Going to buy a dress and you love it, but you ask your friend, how does this look? You need somebody else to tell you whether you should buy it or not. And that was a life-changing moment for me when that book hit the floor. So
it
sometimes
probably would have followed you out the door if you hadn't taken it.
Right. So sometimes you need to be aware. There are always signs all around us, but you have to be in tuned to what's going on. Even to look at our interconnectedness. This is something I'm going to be talking with Michael Rakier about on the show from his last book, because it's great. The spaces in between. When you start to look at everything. I mean everything, from your table to your trees to your plants, your car, everything. When you start to look at everything and realize that everything has a consciousness and you bless everything, everything changes. You become part of all that is.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. I read a quote yesterday, because I collect quotes and pictures, and I put them on my Mac, and they rotate once a minute. So I have about over 5,000 of them. So it keeps me in a really good headspace, because it causes me to really look at what I'm reading. And I saw this one. I really like this one. It says, because a lot of people are suffering, right? A lot of people are suffering because of the news. Stop watching the news. Just keep yourself centered and send light out, The news, you have to watch it because that's your job. And I listen to your show, so I stay up to date, but I don't let it affect me anymore, because I was suffering for a while due to those caged kids. And so this quote says, it's a quote from Buddha, suffering is not holding you, you are holding suffering. So I thought, oh, that's I've never thought of it that way before. I know it sounds simple, but I never thought of it like that before.
Right. Well,
we hold the suffering. We don't have to do that.
Well, we've said it before when we quoted Bradshaw. We carry our crap around like shopping bags of bricks, and all we have to do is put the bags down.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got a great interview. I forget the gal who wrote the book, but it's great. It's just called Don't Worry. And that interview is still in the archive, so just put Don't Worry in the search bar here if you never heard it. But one thing she said, which is absolutely true if you think about it, Monica, is 80% of what we worry about never happens.
Exactly.
So, I always say, deal with what's right in front of you. You can't worry about what happened yesterday, what might happen tomorrow. You can only get through today. Today creates tomorrow.
Well, worry, it lowers your immune system, which is not good. Number two, worry is the opposite of faith. So why even make that an option? I'd rather have faith than worry. So my mom said, change the word worry to concern, please, and then finally get to faith. Again, wise woman.
You're a very smart mother.
Yeah, because when you worry, you're actually sending negative energy out to a person that you're worried about. That's not what you want to do.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
But listen, self-talk is a big, important part of who we are.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure some of my friends might find it, annoying. But if someone is saying something that I consider really improper English, I correct them on the spot. because
Always.
it hurts my ears to hear it.
Me too.
The other thing is when my friends start getting down on themselves in front of me. And the first thing I'll do is I'll look at them and say, don't talk about my friend like that.
Oh.
And it makes them stop and think. If I don't allow you to talk about you like that to yourself, why are you talking to yourself like that?
I like that approach because I always say, would you say that to me, what you're telling yourself? And, oh, never, never. I'm like, so why do you say it to yourself? But I like your approach.
Right. Just I don't want you talking about my friend like that. And they'll stop, because, listen, it's easy for everybody to get down on themselves. But you also have to realize even the vehicle you picked for your soul this time around is perfect for whatever it was you wanted to experience this time. You picked your parents for their DNA, so there's a reason, okay? And what was it, Madonna that had that song, Let Me Hear Your Body Talk? Okay. Well, your body's talking all the time, but sometimes people are not listening.
You have to. It's part of the process of learning from everywhere, even our external, reality, quote unquote, is telling us the solution. So if we're attracting a lot of stuff that's not good for us, where are we telling ourselves that we're not good? All you have to do is personalize it, and there's the answer. So it's telling us, hey, you got to shift. This is what's going on. This is what's going on within you, and that's why it's happening. So shift that part. So when you connect those dots, even Einstein said that, raise your vibratorial frequency to that which you want, and you shall have it. There can be no other way. Life is energy, and this is not philosophy. This is physics.
All right.
So it's like, oh, that's right on. I love some of these masters. These genius minds that receive information from extraterrestrials, like Nikola Tesla. He just said it. He goes, I get it from extraterrestrials, and anybody can. And then Da Vinci, another one who received visions, and Einstein, another one who received visions. And all they do is do the reverse engineering, take it apart, and then put it back together, which is what I did as a kid. They used to call me Professor Einstein growing up because I could take apart a transistor radio, put it back together, and it would work. I took apart a watch that had all the works, those little wheels and stuff, took it apart, put it together, and it worked. So there's something there about our minds receiving, and I realized that we're all receivers. We don't even have a thought that belongs to us. We're receivers and receiving those thoughts, which is cool. When you're an artist, you're receiving. When you're a writer, you're receiving. When you're a speaker, you're receiving. It's all receiving. And when we give messages to other people, we're receiving it. It's just part of that right brain connected to all that is. And by the way, if there's one thing that you don't want to forget about the show today, is remember that whatever word you put after the words I am is how you define yourself. So change it if it's not positive.
Absolutely. Well, Monnica, I have one last thing I'm going to give to the audience, and you and I are done because we're out of time, is if you think this is hard to do and you're one of those people who's always putting yourself down, just try this simple exercise every day. Get in front of your mirror, say out loud, I love you. Give it 2 weeks, see how things change.
Oh, I love that. That's really good. That one in the picture as a child, do them both.
All right, exactly. And the other thing I always recommend people is after you say that, you can always say, what can I do to make you happy today? Everybody spends all day trying to make other people happy, and at the end of the day, they're miserable because they left themselves out.
Yeah, I know. I used to do that.
Don't leave yourself out. Monty, thanks so much for joining me. I love you.
I love you more. Thank you. I always look forward to this.
Me too. I'll talk to you soon, doll.
Okay, honey. Bye-bye.
Bye. Monnica Sepulveda. Check her out at Monnica.com. I like to say, besides her classes, her specialty is connecting with the other side. Okay, well, I'll be back later on in the week with the news. Next week, we got a double header. Got Chuck O'Celli back. We're going to be doing, we're going to do a little bit of a tribute to my 20th year on the net. And Richie Allen's back on the show. And I think Chuck O'Celli's on Richie's show today. So, yes, we are all connected, the few that remain. So, thanks for supporting the show. Love yourself. Talk to you guys next time.
Thank you for listening and supporting The Meria Show. Tell others what you learned today. Knowledge becomes wisdom only when it's shared. Encourage others to subscribe today. www.meria.net. Often imitated, never duplicated. A world of information all in one place. www.meria.net. Always ahead of the curve. Always on your side. Get active or get radioactive. Subscribe today.